identification and accelerated implementation of regional creative economy issues as leader accelerator of Africa Creative Hub. Currently leading the Universal Access to Internet Initiative for Kisumu, which is in Kenya. In partnership with Kisumu County's Governor's Office, public and private sector, to avail free public Wi-Fi access to 900,000 and plus people in 2,090 square kilometers geographical zone, starting off with a pilot covering 20 square kilometers. His formal academic background is in the sciences, while his work history has primarily been within the communication or creative industries since 1994. Within his time, he has and continues to serve in various capacities, informing and leading key regional and country initiatives on various communication and creative industries interventions. He also serves as a board member of the Kenya Film Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the keynote speaker for the 8th Annual African Gala, Mr. Michael Onyango.
Good evening. Good evening. The President, Xavier University, Father Michael Graham, the President of the African Students Association, Ms. Josephine Lando, the entire Executive Board, 2013 to 2014, the patron, or the club advisor, Dr. Klein Bailey, esteemed members of ASA, professors, students at Xavier University, ladies and gentlemen. May I first of all start by thanking you all for so warmly welcoming me to the Queen City over this past week, although it's been raining. It is truly an honor to have been chosen for this keynote address for and about the 1.2 billion inhabitants of the African continent here tonight. I have traveled 7,808 miles from my home in Nairobi to be a part of what began in 2006 as a noble gathering of about 20 students at Xavier, and has now grown to a membership of about 50 plus. I can't imagine a more opportune time to be here than now, as across the African continent, about 20 or so of the countries over the last 3 or 4 years have just passed the halfway mark of the 50th anniversary of independence. Today, I want to tell you a little bit about my Africa. I know that you continue to read, watch, hear many interpretations of what it is. Yes, I do agree that like all nations around the world and other continents, we in Africa are also faced with the challenges of trying to feed our people, people trying to fend for their families, trying to get access to affordable health care, education, housing, and too often, that is the Africa that you know. I need to tell you a tale of the Africa that is ending conflict, that is modernizing, that is creating opportunities, that is pursuing phenomenal technological revolution, that is and has transformed many lives up into the deep rural areas. I want to tell this narrative with hard numbers, statistics, so that whatever I say here has full authority. Just to start, Africa is booming. And since the year 2000, our per capita income has doubled. My Africa is the continent with the most multilingual languages in the world, over 1,000. Our collective GDP, $1.7 trillion, equal to Brazil's or Russia's, with 35% of our population being middle class. According to the IMF reports, with the top 10 fastest growing economies in the world, only 3 countries, China and India, are leading. Vietnam is somewhere in between. But the 7 of the rest are African countries. And let me surprise you, Ethiopia, which you knew for food aid, has a growing economy of 8.1%. Mozambique, 7.1%. Tanzania, 7.2%. Congo and Ghana, 7.0%. Zambia and Nigeria, 6.9%. Collectively, as a continent, our GDP has grown or continues to grow annually by 5%. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just mentioned 7 countries on the top 10 list of the fastest growing economies, which are all resident in my Africa. Life expectancy has increased by 1 year over the last 3 years. Over the last decade. And that means that for any baby that is born today and now, as we sit here, you can add a life 1 day extra to the end of that baby's life. 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land exists on the continent of Africa. There are over 502 million people with mobile phones, and across the continent, a penetration of 65%. Currently, M-Pesa, which is mobile money transactions that are done over the phone, at the end of today, if you take the total number of global transactions that Western Union will do globally today, that's the number of transactions that they will do. Note, Western Union is 160 million years old. The number of transactions that M-Pesa would have done today will supersede that. Again, this is a phenomenal technological achievements that are happening in my Africa. 52 cities across Africa have more than 1 million citizens residing in it. HIV rates are down by 27%, translating into 600,000 less people getting infected per year. The battle against malaria is also down by 27%. So deaths have also gone down. 20 indigenous African companies have an annual gross revenue of above $3 billion US. Nigeria, 64 million people and citizens in Nigeria belong to the middle and above class. That is the entire population of many African countries. But to bring it into context, for those of you who reside here in America, that is the whole population of the state of California, New York, and Kentucky. And that is just one country, Nigeria. $40 billion, that's the amount of money that's remitted every single year by Africans living in the diaspora back home. African governments over the last 5 years have spent $72 billion on infrastructure. Africa produces 10 billion barrels of oil, equivalent to the same production as Russia or Saudi Arabia. And sadly, every single year, $50 billion US is actually siphoned back by multinationals from Africa back to their home capitals. 6 years from today, that is the year 2020, Africa's collective GDP will be $2.6 trillion. 128 million Africans will have discretionary income. The combined consumer spending across the continent will be 2 trillion, and 50% of all Africans will be living in cities. By 2050, Africa will be a $29 trillion economy, bigger than the economy of Europe and America put together. Life expectancy by 2050 is going to be up by 13 years, and household incomes will go up 7-fold. For the African students who are here, this is the point where you come in. First of all, let me remind you that you are part of the 60% of the Africa's population that is under the age of 30. By having a place and being here at Xavier University, you have already distinguished yourselves as leaders. And your time here has and continues to give you an extraordinary foundation for the future that lies before you. I sat in 2 classes yesterday, very diverse disciplines. I can see one of the professors are here. And I've also had one-on-one discussions with people like Farai, Subri, Tekla, Mo, and truly, you fittingly represent the Africa that is so often overlooked, undervalued, the Africa of hope, diversity, the new Africa of progress and self-reliance. Without a doubt, the key accelerator to this growth has been more democratic space, education and technology, and your demographic using technology, which you must continue to use to shape and determine the fate of our continent. Again, for the students who are here, you've got time and numbers on your side. You'll be making the decisions long after many of the current leaderships have left the scene. But let me forewarn you, Africa is watching what decisions you are making. The world is watching what you do. And Africa expects a lot from you. One of the greatest things that is happening in Africa now is that where people used to see suffering, they're now seeing opportunity for resources, investments for partnerships and influence. Over the last 3 years, I know personally that Eric Schmidt, head of Google, has twice traveled to Nairobi to iHub. iHub is a local innovation hub that was started by locals who are very much the same age that you're at right now. And iHub has been responsible for a great many innovations and platforms that have been used worldwide, right from the tsunamis in Japan to the earthquakes in Haiti. So the reason why Eric Schmidt traveled all the way to Nairobi is because Africa as a continent, as represented by Nairobi, has got some of the best human capital in the world. Governments and business from around the world are sizing up the continent and making decisions where to invest, using their own time and energy. China, India, Brazil, the EU, and the US are all looking hard, and many have made first-mover investments. IBM officially opened its first research lab out of the US, and that is currently stationed and working out of Nairobi. I have traveled all the way to Xavier to be here because I believe totally in you. But I also bring you the message from your kin back on the continent that Africa is relying on you. As a proud, honorable, and respected citizen of the African continent, and like all of you Africans here, we are the heirs of the independent states that our forefathers fought to liberate us from political domination. Each of us here must now purposefully and personally take responsibility to engage and work towards economically empowering and liberating ourselves and our people from economic exploitation. I have personally began last year what I call the Kumekucha initiative run by the African Creative Hub. Kumekucha means the arising, mentoring young, upcoming men and women who are in the creative industries, held their hands, teach them how to turn art and creativity into economically viable ventures, teaching them how to monetize their skills. Over a period of 8 months, we have managed to support and mentor 800 young minds that reside in informal settlements and will be looking to your support to extend this to others across the country. Father Graham, we will be looking to you for possible partnerships with Xavier University through our countrywide One School, 100 New Jobs initiative. As I conclude, in the same light, I am counting on Xavier, African students, and by extension, the Xavier fraternity, to ensure that Africa's promise, we face neither east nor west, we face forward, to be the clarion call for Xavier African Students Association as you lead Africa towards the new frontier. God bless and thank you.